Yo, what's up everybody? Lawler here. Going to be recording a quick Q&A video before I go out to lunch. And we've got some fun ones to talk about. Some unique things actually about contracts. I think possibly 1v1 community, different tournament styles and formats like a lottery seeding system. All that and more in today's Q&A. What's up, everybody? Going to be doing Q&A number 33 for y'all today. First one comes from Gent Compilation. Says, I don't know if it's been asked before, but what do you think about adding 1v1 tournaments permanently into RLCS? Would it be a good idea? So to answer that one in particular, I actually think no. I know there's a lot of people that want a 1v1 pro scene or a 2v2 pro scene, but the difficulty is when you do that, you're allocating certain players that have a focus. And if you take a player that's really good at like 1v1s, like take Joria's or apparently Jack, the difficulty is it enticing enough for them to go and play 1v1s rather than 3v3s? And then there's the chance of, because of that segregation, you're going to miss out on certain players in the pro scene. And it's a bunch of other things that Rocket League has to allocate towards. You can expect possibly Rocket League Sideswipe in the future because it's a different game, different platform. But when it comes to the actual pro scene, it doesn't really make sense to have multiple queue types in an esport. I don't know if there's really any other esports that do that. I could be completely wrong on that, but most esports scenes have a staple of this many players, this many people on a team, this is the queue type, and then these are the game modes surrounding it. It just doesn't really work. He then says, I know there were small ones during regionals before, but what if regionals before? There was Johnny Boy put on Fusion and stuff, which were like different concepts of like a crew battle type of style, but it's not necessarily RLCS related. RLCS has never done like a 1v1 tournament, and I think it's for that reason. It just doesn't make sense to like have that allocation there. By the end of the season, we would have the best team and the best 1v1 player during Worlds, which would be really cool. And obviously, Johnny Boy does a lot of effort, and it's good for developing and fostering talent. But I personally think it actually would hurt, and there would be certain talent that's really good at 1v1s that may get a chance to shine because they don't do well in threes. But at the same time, you don't want to entice the pros that are... It would basically hurt the current pro scene. Plus, these broadcasts are already super long, and so are these tournaments. To have a 1v1 tournament at the same time as like a show match or something, it's better off doing like freestyle competitions and everything else. Kind of like how they have been, where like before the grand finals, we have this 1v1 competition or this freestyle competition that's like sponsored by like Ford or Lamborghini or whatever. But having a dedicated scene for it, RLCS related, I think would actually hurt the current RLCS system. Second question comes from Super JP3. Says, hey, Lawler, never miss video. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. What kind of practices do you do to be well-spoken like you? Literally that, man. Just practice. Most of it, I will say, comes from experience. I still need to improve upon things. You can ask Wojtek. He's probably putting something goofy on the screen here. The amount of outtakes and times I mess up and all that kind of stuff, it happens pretty frequently. These are edited videos. So I can't always just one take these. Some things I can, some things I can't. But understand I've been doing this professionally for 6 to 7 years. RLCS commentator for the first 8 seasons, the ability to be on camera every single weekend in front of a crew with a production team and all that kind of stuff, working with commentators on the desk and everything. That is years of a developed talent, depending on who you ask. But it is something that takes a lot of time and practice. And my recommendation is, if it's something you want to get better at, see what it's like to sit down. Like, I'm in my hotel room alone with a DSLR camera just talking to it in a microphone. See what it's like to do that, to just sit and talk and make a video about something you're passionate about. And the more and more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get with it. And every time you go into a different aspect, it's going to be more difficult. Doing it in front of your camera, doing it on stage, doing it in front of a studio, doing it in front of a live audience, every single time is a different challenge. The biggest thing that I'm personally focusing on is solo content. So if I am working in studio, not having another commentator or a host next to me, me being dedicated as the only one on camera with no one to buy me out, that stuff is still very difficult because there's no safety net. It's just you gotta crush the segment. No one's there to bail you out, kind of like now, except for I can make a jump cut and Wojtek can fix it if he feels like it. So it's a little bit different, but a lot of it is simply experience. You just got to put in the work and grind it out. Next question. What are your thoughts on all the majors having a fixed number of teams from each region? It makes sense. You want to make sure that each region is given the same amount of weight and love as for qualification purposes. The reason why that's done is to make sure that obviously there's like a fairness that's held across, and those spots that they're allocated will actually be changed based upon performances in future years. If all of a sudden we just start seeing Mina come in with multiple teams and clapping us, like with Sandrock's performance being top 8, very impressive, it's not a bad idea to possibly give Mina multiple spots as compared to South America or something of that nature. And it's going to depend on how the results are across the whole year. You need a larger sample size than just one. So I expect that in time to be balanced and changed. It's always been like that. That is in Worlds different though. Worlds is based upon qualifications of how well you perform over the entire year, and then wildcard spots and stuff like that also change. So there is it to an extent, but for majors you need a fixed amount so everybody has the same amount of chances to go and gain points. But you still have to be the best in your region to go represent. That's the difference. Last, certainly not least, comes from Nick Morrison, which actually has a very unique idea. He says, "Hey, Lawler, my question is, what is your opinion on using a random draw to decide the playoff brackets instead of every game being decided by seeding? I don't think it's a better option, but I would be intrigued to see it in maybe one tournament to see how it runs. Keep up the good work." Appreciate it, man. We've actually talked about this. There's been a couple tournament organizers where we have considered doing a lottery-based system. And if you guys don't know what that is, or a lottery-based format, is you invite your teams, right? So say I'm doing in North America lottery format. I invite 8 teams, right? I take the top 8 from the RLCS from Energy down to V1, which is your top 8 in your standings right now. Rather than pairing things on seeding based upon like Energy would play V1 and then this team plays this team, you draw names from a hat. You put all the names in a hat or a lottery, hence the lottery format, and you just pull out names, and that's how you find out who goes into what group, who goes into what match, who fights who, and it makes for some very exciting matchups. Group of Death is kind of where this really comes from. League of Legends used to do this back in the day, and it was one of my favorite streams to watch, where you're sitting there and you have all these teams doing watch parties waiting to find out who they play before they fly out to the event. Imagine for a major, for instance, the Winter Split Major, rather than North America 1 playing this team number 16 and EU 2 playing this team. That's going to change now that Europe has won the most recent major. Europe is going to get the number 1 seed instead of North America, and they're going to change seeding based upon results. But imagine you have 16 teams from all over the world, and you find out what group you play in by someone picking a slip of paper, and it's completely RNG. Makes for some pretty interesting results, doesn't it? Because imagine if NRG, FaZe, BDS, and Dignitas are all in the same group. Imagine if these teams now, only 1 or 2 or 3 can progress, and a favorite to win the whole thing gets eliminated while you've got a group of some of the least performing teams all in the same group, and then a couple of those get through. You never know what can happen. So lottery-based systems don't necessarily work. The whole point of a format in seeding is to make sure that the best teams, based upon performance, are going to be the ones to progress and make it through. You want to make sure that competitive integrity is there. You want to make sure that the finals aren't a complete smacking. You want to make sure that things stay close. And that's the whole point of seeding, is making sure that your best teams don't play each other too early in the tournament. It just goes against the whole competitive integrity thing. So although it's a cool idea, there's a reason why it went away, but I would maybe I can convince a tournament organizer sometime to be like, yo, let's do some lottery seeding. Let's just pull randomly and do it on a stream. Could be kind of fun. There's actually a tournament coming up at the end of this month. Maybe I'll try to convince them to do it. I'll see what I can do. That's going to wrap it up for today's Q&A video. See, I told you I'd mess up. It's going to wrap it up for today's Q&A video. Appreciate you guys all taking the time to watch and entertain. I promise you guys, starting tomorrow, videos back to normal on the typical streaming setup and the fancy stuff. It is actually Sunday afternoon while I'm recording this and still being in the hotel. But I will be back home on Monday to record some videos for you all. That way we can get back to the typical setup, which, again, I appreciate you guys all being patient. I'm trying to put out daily videos and stuff still. I know things are released late. These videos literally take 4 hours to upload. So that stuff, again, is finally going to go away. We'll get back to the normal, but I'm traveling. I'm trying to do stuff while I'm working out and doing casting gigs while also still trying to do YouTube. So for those that are staying positive in the comments, showing encouragement, saying thank you for the efforts and all that kind of stuff, it absolutely means the world to me. But I am going to go meet up with a friend I haven't seen in 2 years, get some lunch, and then go watch the football game. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend/day because it's Monday, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace. Hey, Wojtek, appreciate all the help this weekend, man. You've been an absolute legend.